The mirror that never shows everything. You wake up. Just another ordinary day. The sun slips through the cracks in the blinds, the distant sound of traffic, the coffee cup sliding through your fingers. Everything feels the same. Familiar. Almost automatic. But something pulses beneath it all. A faint discomfort, barely noticeable. As if reality were slightly tilted. As if you were seeing the world through glass. Clear glass, yes, but still glass. You touch the table. It's solid. You look out the window. Cars, people, buildings, noise. All real. All logical. But what if it's not? What if this world, with its colors, sounds, and neatly arranged rules, is just a facade? Like a store window set up behind a false mirror. Most people never question it. They follow invisible scripts. Wake up. Repeat. And those who dare to ask, does any of this make sense? They're quickly silenced. Ridiculed. Labeled as strange. But that question keeps vibrating like a sound only the soul can hear. And it echoes here, now, in this moment. Is the world really what it seems to be? Maybe reality is like a painting, beautiful, but layered over an older image. Or like a theater where the curtain hides the backstage, and the backstage hides something even bigger. Have you noticed how everything seems designed to keep you distracted? Advertising, social media, crises, opinions, news. A constant avalanche of noise preventing one simple thing: silence. Because in silence, the soul whispers. And when it whispers, something inside you begins to see. Not with your eyes, but with another kind of vision. The kind that comes from feeling. You start to notice small glitches. Patterns repeating. Words appearing out of nowhere. People showing up with messages that feel orchestrated. And then, like a spark, comes the question that changes everything. What if I'm not seeing the world as it is, but as they want me to see it? That thought isn't light. It weighs on your shoulders. It shakes everything you thought was true, but it also sets you free. Because if the world is a construct, it can be reconstructed. And if reality is an illusion, then something beyond it is waiting to be remembered. In this silent game between seeing and not seeing, the first crack forms in the mirror. And through it, a different light begins to escape. A quiet, almost sacred invitation. Are you ready to see what's behind it all? What you see might only be what they allow you to see. The hidden code in the routine. Have you ever felt like you're living the same day more than once? You wake up, check your phone. Same kind of message. Leave the house. Same route. Same traffic light turning red at the exact same moment. At work, the conversations sound recycled. The expressions repeated. It's not just monotony. It's something deeper. As if someone were replaying the same scene. Patterns. Repetitions. Life feels like it's written by an invisible code. Lines of programming that dictate every detail of your experience. And this code, contrary to what they say, isn't neutral. It makes you believe you're in control. That you're making choices. But in truth, you're just moving within an equation that was written long before you were born. The body ages. The mind becomes conditioned. The system offers rewards, promotions, likes, compliments. All finely tuned so you'll keep playing. But sometimes, something glitches. A rendering error. A crack in the simulation. That strange déjà vu, like you've already lived that moment. That person who shows up saying a phrase you dreamed the night before. That sequence of numbers appearing everywhere, like it's trying to wake you up. These moments aren't coincidences. They're cracks in the code. openings through which the original reality tries to seep in. And when you start to notice them, something shifts. You realize the routine isn't random. It was designed. It's the perfect stage to keep you asleep. Always busy. Always in a rush. Always afraid to step out of line. And everything that strays from that pattern, deep spirituality, existential questions, spontaneous intuition, is mocked. Because the code doesn't want you to wake up. But behind the repetitive gestures, the synchronized clocks, the predictable meetings, there is something else. Another layer, another language. As if the universe were trying to speak to you. You begin to feel it. Words carry weight. Places hold memory. Encounters have purpose. The matrix depends on your ignorance. But it starts to fail when you begin to see. Because the code only works as long as you follow it. But it trembles when you start to question it. And then, the great question rises like a whisper from within your chest. Who wrote all this and why? Who wrote this code and why? The invisible prison of frequency. Everything vibrates. The sound you hear, the skin you touch, the thought that crosses your mind without warning. Everything vibrates, even what seems solid. Because matter isn't dense. It's compacted vibration. But what frequency are you vibrating at right now? This isn't a technical detail. It's the key to your prison. Imagine the world as an old radio. It only picks up the stations within a specific range. You can turn the dial all you want, but you'll never hear what's outside that band. Now imagine your mind is that radio. Since childhood, you've been taught to tune into the frequency of urgency, the frequency of obligation, the frequency of fear. And the lower you vibrate, the more the reality around you reflects that density. More doors close. You attract the same challenges over and over. You begin to believe it's normal to live trapped in that condition. But normal isn't natural. You were born with the ability to access other stations, other worlds, other states of being. But that key was hidden from you. They placed you in a low vibration range and fed you constant reinforcements. Fear in the news, bills in the mail, guilt in religion, anxiety on social media. Every stimulus carefully designed to keep you low. Because while your frequency stays low, you can't see. You don't see the signs. You don't hear your intuition. You don't feel the presence of the unseen. It's like living in a dark room with the windows locked, believing there's nothing else out there. But what if all it took was changing the station? Joy has a frequency. Love has a frequency. Gratitude is a portal. When you tune into those frequencies, reality begins to respond differently. You meet people you never would have seen before. Places that seem to recognize you. Opportunities that appear without explanation. It's not magic. It's resonance. What you emit, you attract. What you vibrate, you create. And what you accept as real becomes your cell. Maybe the matrix isn't made of walls. Maybe it's made of unresolved emotions, of thoughts you no longer notice. And in this silent landscape, a chilling question arises. If my frequency was programmed, who's holding the dial? The lords of illusion. They don't appear in the news. They don't wear uniforms. They have no name, no face, no nation. But they are always there, between the lines of the law, in the subtext of advertisements, in the voice that says, "It's all in your head." They are the lords of illusion, not as mythological figures, but as intelligences operating in the unseen, forces that don't create the world, but shape how you perceive it. They don't need chains. They trap you with ideas. They seduce you with promises. They distract you with entertainment. They are the architects of collective sleep, programmers of a reality that feels free but is calculated. These forces don't want you to see. They want you to consume, to worry, to repeat. They create idols, heroes, gurus, gods, and fears, all tailored to the system's taste. All to keep you from looking within. All to make you believe that the meaning of life is out there. The truth is, they don't hate you. They simply need you. Your attention is their fuel. Your emotion is their currency. Your consciousness is the prize. The more you suffer, the more energy you generate. The more you feel guilt, the more power you lose. The more you forget, the more useful you become. It's as if you were a generator plugged into a reality you never chose. And all the while, you believe you're living, but you're merely being lived. These lords don't just try to control what you think. They try to control what you feel. They program the collective emotion, the climate of the human soul. Wars that drain, trends that numb, fashions that pull you away from your essence. And when someone dares to step off the path, they're labeled crazy, heretic, mystical. Because awakening is dangerous to the system. But there's something these forces cannot predict. The quiet courage of a soul that begins to remember. Remembering it wasn't born to obey. Remembering it doesn't need the world's approval. Remembering it carries something that cannot be manipulated. The spark. The source, the truth. And when that memory ignites, the veil begins to fall. You feel it. You know it. You are not alone. But the question that lingers, echoing through the void, is, what if what you call life is their food? What if what you call life is their food? While you sleep, they edit you. At night, the body rests. But consciousness continues. As the eyes close, something opens. A crack between worlds. A subtle hallway where everything can be rewritten. And it's there, in that invisible interval, that they act. Because sleep isn't just rest. It's transition. It's vulnerability. It's opportunity. While you dream, someone is reprogramming. Fragments of memory are scrambled. Real sensations are mixed with unreal images. What should be a memory turns into fog. You wake up and forget. Forget what you saw. Forget what you felt. Forget who you are. But sometimes something slips through. That strange dream that felt more real than life. That sleep paralysis, where you want to move but something holds you down. That figure in the corner of the room, that vanishes the moment you force your eyes open. They're traces, remnants of a silent war being fought inside your sleep. Because when you sleep, they edit you. They erase traumas that might awaken you. They insert fears that kill your boldness. They implant subtle beliefs, camouflaged in symbolic imagery. It's as if you were a file being rewritten with each passing night. And the proof is in the emotions that appear out of nowhere. In the sadness that hits upon waking. In the unexplainable fear of trying something new. In the feeling that you've tried to change, but always end up back where you started. It's a silent loop. A nightly cycle of emotional programming. But there's a crack. Small, but powerful, lucid awareness during sleep. When you begin to remember your dreams, when you learn to be present inside them, when you realize you can question the images, everything begins to glitch. The matrix trembles. The programming weakens. And you recover pieces of yourself that were asleep. Sleep then stops being an escape and becomes a portal, because there are places only the soul can reach when the body goes silent. And voices that can only be heard in the darkness of the subconscious. But are you ready to listen? Ready to accept that Even in sleep, you were never alone? The language that creates reality. Before time, before matter, there was sound. The pulse, a vibration, an echo in the silence that began to form everything. It wasn't an explosion. It was an emission, as if the universe whispered, and the whisper became form. Because sound is code. Word is spell. Symbol is living geometry. And you, even without knowing, are speaking to reality all the time. But you speak without intention, without awareness, as if writing sentences into the wind, unaware that the wind obeys. The matrix doesn't fear your physical strength. It fears your awakened voice, because every word spoken with truth creates vibration, and every vibration sculpts the field around you. Try saying, "I am lost." Feel the weight. Now say, "I am a memory of something greater." Do you feel the difference? You are shaping the codes at every moment, but they taught you to speak with fear, to think with doubt, to create with scarcity. And so, reality obeys. But there is a forgotten language, kept in ancient traditions, in mantras, in symbols that resonate with deep truths. They're not just sounds, they are keys. Sounds that unlock the field. Syllables that adjust the soul's vibration. Words that don't describe the world, but reconfigure it. The Egyptians knew this. The Tibetans still know. The ancient shamans would hear the sound before seeing the forest. They didn't ask the universe for things. They activated frequencies within themselves. And the world responded. The matrix only exists as long as you repeat its sounds. But it dissolves when you reclaim your own voice. You don't need to shout. You need to vibrate. Speak to yourself as if you're speaking to the sacred. Call the invisible by name. Invoke peace as if it were a musical note that hasn't been played yet. And then you understand, language is not a tool. It's a portal. A portal that opens when word and heart are in unison. Can you still remember the original sound of your soul? The one muffled by the voices of the world? The one that still echoes, even when everything is silent. The memory that was erased. There's a kind of longing that has no name. A silent emptiness that has followed you for as long as you can remember. It's not sadness. It's not loneliness. It's misalignment. As if something inside you knows, with absolute certainty, that this place is not your home. That this body is not all you are. That this story, with its beginning, middle, and end, is just a page torn from a much older book. But the memory was erased, not with an eraser, but with distractions, with inherited fears, with imposed routines, with a culture that says, "This is who you are. Accept it." But the soul does not forget. It only falls asleep. And from time to time, it tries to scream. In a dream that wakes you up in tears. In an encounter with someone you've never met, but somehow know. In a song that pierces through you with a feeling that defies all logic. These moments are cracks in the forgetting. They are encoded reminders. The soul speaks through symbols. And the heart, when silenced, becomes an antenna. It picks up frequencies the mind can't understand, but the body can feel. Because truth is not hidden from the world. It's hidden inside you. In the part that was trained to doubt. In the part that always self-sabotaged. In the part that said, "I don't deserve it," without knowing where that voice came from. But there is a memory that resists time. A password stored at the center of your chest. A file no one has been able to delete, no matter how hard they tried. It's there, waiting, beating. And when you get close to it, everything around you starts to feel different. Sounds change. Colors intensify. The right people appear. Because remembering changes the game. It changes the frequency. It changes the script. And that's why the Matrix works so hard to make sure you don't remember. To keep you saying, "It's just my imagination." To keep you pretending that this life is all there is. What if you came from a place where time doesn't exist? What if you were once someone who created worlds? What if you agreed to enter this reality in order to wake up inside it? The soul knows. It always has. And now, it's beginning to whisper louder. Like someone knocking on the door from inside. You're not from here, but you left clues to find your way back. The soul still carries the password to your origin. The portal is within. You've searched in many places. Ancient books, mysterious videos, scattered quotes on social media promising answers. You looked to the sky, asked silent questions, waited for signs. But the true portal was never out there. It has always been within, not inside the body, but inside presence. That rare, almost forgotten state where you simply are. No masks, no plans, no noise. Presence is a place. And that place is the escape point from the Matrix. The Matrix feeds on your past and your future. It keeps you trapped in painful memories and in expectations that never arrive. But the now, the true now, it cannot reach. Because in the now, you are awake. You feel every heartbeat as if it were the first. You hear the sound of the world not as noise, but as melody. You see others not as threats, but as mirrors. And in that state, the code fails. You begin to see how everything was illusion. How the voices that once controlled you were just echoes. How fear was only the absence of light. The soul doesn't need to escape the Matrix. It only needs to remember who it is in the exact moment it is. Meditation isn't a technique. It's a return. You coming back to yourself. To a space where no one can program, invade, measure, or mold. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of essence. It's where you stop being the character and become the player again. But it's hard to stay there, because the system will try to pull you back. With notifications, with intrusive thoughts, with distractions disguised as urgency. It knows that if you remain present long enough, you wake up. And when you wake up, you start seeing the world differently. People seem to be acting. Words lose their meaning. Rules begin to dissolve. But it's not the world that changed. It was you. You crossed the mirror. You entered the point where the code can't reach. And then a voice rises from within. Not with sound, but with certainty. The way out was never escape. It was always presence. The rebellion of awakened souls. They walk among us, but they don't announce themselves. They don't seek followers, spotlights, or glory. They are discreet. Eyes that see more than they should. Hearts that feel more than they can bear. Presences that unsettle because they carry something the system can't decode. They are the invisible rebels. Souls who have awakened within the game and decided to obey no longer. They don't obey oppressive rules, or limiting stories, or voices that try to dictate what is possible or real. These souls know the world is a subtle simulation, but they don't hate the Matrix. They simply refuse to feed it. They live on a different frequency. They speak little but listen deeply. They observe patterns. They feel fields. They steer clear of noise and follow a silent calling that comes from within. Some work in hospitals. Others teach. Others walk the streets like anyone else. But inside they know. They came to anchor a new code. They're not here to fight the Matrix. They're here to reprogram reality with presence, love, and awareness. And when two of these souls meet, the world around them seems to pause. Synchronicity erupts. Time bends. Words vanish because recognition is vibrational. Maybe you've crossed paths with one of them, or maybe you are one of them. Maybe that's why you never quite fit in. Maybe that's why you've always felt like you carried a mission you couldn't name. And now, as you hear this, something stirs. Something that doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the center of the chest, from the core of your being. Because rebellion doesn't begin with an act. It begins with a deliberate silence. The moment you choose to no longer sleep. And once that choice is made, other awakened souls find you. Because vibration connects you. And together, you form a silent network. A living constellation of light points within the shadows. The Matrix doesn't know how to handle that. It can predict behaviors, but it can't control free hearts. And at that point, the question changes. It's no longer, how do I escape? It becomes, what are you doing with the awakening you received? You are not the character. You are the player. The realization hits, like a blade of light cutting through the fog. Everything you thought you were, the name, the body, the story, the traumas, was just an avatar. A temporary reflection. A role you needed in order to move through the game. But you were never the character. You were always the player. The silent observer behind the eyes. The eternal consciousness that chose to experience limits, only to remember it had none. You came into the Matrix for a reason, not to defeat it, but to transcend it. You accepted forgetting. You accepted pain. You accepted confusion, because you knew that by going through it all, the flame of awareness would burn brighter. And now it's lit. You begin to see the Matrix with compassion, not as an enemy, but as a school. It showed you what you are not, so you could find what you've always been. It took you to the depths, so the rise could come from your innermost being. So the return wouldn't be imposed, but chosen. Now you no longer need to fight reality, nor run from it. You can dance with it, create within it, rewrite it using codes only the soul knows. Because when you remember that you are the player, the game changes. The rules bend. Time stretches. Life begins to respond, not as a servant, but as a mirror. You understand that everything is symbolic. That every pain carried a message. That every encounter was a reflection. That every repetition was a reminder you had forgotten who you are. But now, you remember. And this simple act of remembering is the beginning of the end of the Matrix within you. Because the illusion doesn't need to be destroyed. It only needs to stop being fed. And now you carry the choice. To keep reacting like the character, or start creating like consciousness. The soul has already chosen. The vibration has already shifted. The portal is already open. All that's left is to walk through it. You don't need to destroy the Matrix. Just stop feeding it. The more you remember who you are, the more it dissolves on its own.